Hey guys, welcome back. To get myself back into the habit of recording, we are going to do our follow-up video on the Blood Angels this week. Picking up where we left off at the end of the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. Just as it seemed that the Emperor's dream could be fulfilled, the Great Crusade ended in the most terrible and unimaginable way. It came to pass that Horus, trusted war master of the Great Crusade, turned his back upon the Emperor and embraced the shifting glories of the Chaos Gods. To him rallied nearly half of the armies of mankind, including many of the Space Marine legions. On what should have been the brink of a new age of glory, humanity was plunged into the bleakest civil war it had ever known. Untold billions of lives were sacrificed upon the altar of battle, every soul feeding the rapacious hungers of the Chaos Gods. If the Great Crusade was mankind's finest hour, then the Horus Heresy was surely its blackest. Brother fought brother, with quarter neither offered nor given. Heroes were slain, worlds burned, and the Emperor's dreams of peace were shattered forever. In the midst of this darkness, the Blood Angels never wavered, but held true at the Emperor's side. Sanguinius now stepped into the void left by Horus's desertion, assuming command of the Emperor's loyal forces. In doing so, he thrust the Blood Angels into the brutal forefront of the fighting. The rivalry with the World Eaters now escalated into bitter enmity as the two legions found themselves serving different masters, and their confrontations were to be amongst the bloodiest and hardest fought of that bloodiest of wars. It is said that Horus hated and feared Sanguinius more than any of his brothers, and wove many strategies to ensnare or slay him, though all failed. The final confrontation. Yet, for all the might of the Emperor, for every effort of Sanguinius and the remaining loyalist Primarchs, the forces of Horus drove all before them. In too short a time, the Emperor of mankind was assailed within his great palace on Terra. With only a comparative handful of loyal warriors at his side, he confronted the host of demons, traitors, and corrupted space marines that fought at the treacherous war master's side. The Blood Angels led the defense of the Emperor's palace, never once losing heart, despite the terrible odds stacked against them. Alongside their battle brothers of the Imperial Fist's Legion, the valorous yet overmatched soldiers of the Imperial Army, and to the grim Adeptus Custodes, the Blood Angels held the walls of that final bastion. Yet the war could not be won, or even survived, through defense alone. In a final, desperate gambit, the Emperor took the fight to Horus's great battle barge, Vengeful Spirit, teleporting into the heart of the enemy stronghold with the Blood Angels and Imperial Fists at his side. Only Space Marines could have withstood the horrors of that demon-haunted ship, and even they were sorely pressed. Sanguinius was swiftly separated from his comrades and, so the legend tells, was brought through artifice before the treacherous Horus. In evil cunning, the War Master offered Sanguinius one final chance to renounce the Emperor, to join with Horus Horus's inevitable victory, yet the Primarch of the Blood Angels held true and refused. Thus rejected, Horus flew into a rage and attacked. Even at the peak of his powers, Sanguinius could not have hoped to prevail against the monster Horus had become, and the Primarch was weary and wounded from his travails on Terra. When the Emperor at last entered Horus's sanctum, sorry about that weird crack, he found his rebellious war master standing above Sanguinius's broken, bleeding corpse. In the battle that followed, Horus was finally vanquished, though the Emperor too was cast down near to death. There are many tales told of this final battle, and, though the exact facts are long lost, one detail holds through all the recitations through all the millennia since. Despite the Emperor's great power, he could never have bested Horus had not the blade of Sanguinius wrought a chink in the War Master's armor. The aftermath. The Imperium was forever changed in the wake of Horus's defeat. No longer would the beneficent Emperor take a martial role in mankind's defense, for his shattered body was now sustained only by the life-giving machineries of the Golden Throne. The reconstruction of his empire and the final rout of the traitor forces would now fall to the surviving Primarchs, men such as Rokal Dorn of the Imperial Fists and Robut Gilliman of the Ultramarines. Indeed, it was Gilliman who would have the greatest lasting effect upon the now leaderless Blood Angels. Through the Codex Astartes, that great treatise on the restructuring and ordering of the Space Marines, Gilliman's legacy would reshape the Blood Angels Legion into the chapters that defend the Imperium to this day. Mankind had suffered, and the Imperium was nearly destroyed. Yet the Blood Angels would bear the pain longer and more deeply than most. Sanguinius's death heralded the awakening of the Red Thirst, and its curse would change the nature of the chapter forever. Ordering the Host. At first glance, it might seem odd that a legion so proud of its traditions would set aside its individuality, but the events of the Horus Heresy had shaken the Blood Angels to their core. The Blood Angels were thus amongst the first Space Marines to adopt Robut Gilliman's Codex Astartes. The death of Sanguinius left no clear line of succession, and factions within the Blood Angels formed around potential candidates. In addition, the Flaw was slowly making its presence felt, further muddying the Legion's future. Ultimately, it was Ascalon, sole survivor of the Sanguinary Guard, who drove the Blood Angels' destiny onwards. Ascalon, who saw clearly that the Blood Angels had more pressing worries than organizational doctrine, ensured the division of the Blood Angels Legion into the chapters that endure today. These were the Blood Angels themselves, who maintained the old Legion's heraldry and traditions, the Flesh Terrors, the Angels Vermilion, the Angels Encarmine, and the Angels Sanguine. What became of Ascalon himself after this point is unrecorded, but his legacy lives on in the chapters he created. Chapter Organization. The Blood Angels and their successor chapters adhere as closely to the Codex Astartes as the Flaw allows. They recognize the Codex's structures as a form of discipline that can be used to restrain the Red 100 Space Marines each. The first company is home to the chapter's most experienced veterans, all of its battle brothers steeped in decades, if not centuries, of constant warfare. The second through fifth companies are the chapter's backbone, the battle companies who form the core of any strike force. The remaining companies are reserve and training formations of one sort or another. Companies 6 and 7 are the tactical companies, used to reinforce a strike force or battle line when the battle companies are overstretched. The 8th and 9th companies are specialist formations, composed of assault squads and devastator squads respectively. These companies are rather more limited in their tactical scope, and are deployed only when an overwhelmingly single-minded approach is required. Finally, the 10th Company is seen by many as the future of the chapter, for it is here that scouts hone their skills in the Space Marine way of war. Of all a chapter's companies, it is the 10th that fights least commonly as a single unit. Though the scouts are not yet fully trained Space Marines, their skills are highly valued. As a result, every strike force will likely have a squad or two of scouts attached to it. Though each company can and does fight as a separate unit, a Blood Angels strike force will often be composed of several squads from different companies, assembled on an ad hoc basis, according to the mission at hand. Such strike forces are normally given code names, such as Blood Spear, Liberator, or Primarch's Wrath. Nonetheless, a strike force will inevitably be referenced by the company from which most of its personnel are drawn, or the officer that leads it. In addition to the personal armor and weaponry required by its battle brothers, each company, save the 10th, also maintains a host of support vehicles. These range from Rhino and Razorback transports to bikes and land speeders. Such tools are drawn upon whenever the tactical situation requires. This allows even a single Blood Angels company to fulfill a multitude of tactical and strategic roles. Unusually for a Space Marine chapter, the Blood Angels command sufficient land raiders to deploy these mighty vehicles as line transports, rather than elite support units. How the Blood Angels acquired so many land raiders is a mystery outside the chapter. Perhaps more of their vehicles survived the Horus Heresy intact, or perhaps the Blood Angels were once closer allies of the Adeptus Mechanicus than their current, strained relations would suggest. Chapter Command. Rule of the Blood Angels falls to the chapter master and his council. Most seats at the high table are taken by the brother captains who command the chapter's companies. Some, however, belong to senior officers whose injuries are too great for continued combat, but whose wisdom still holds great value. Such officers command the chapter's vital support institutions, such as the armory, the fleet, and the ongoing recruitment of fresh neophytes. Though ultimate power rests with the chapter master, the council are often called upon to act in their master's absence, should he be slain or is himself away on campaign. In addition to their role on the council, each officer will also have an assigned title and duties necessary to the smooth running of the chapter. Some such titles, such as Master of the Watch, are drawn from the pages of the Codex Astartes. Others, including the Lord of Skyfall and the Shield of Baal, have sprung from the Blood Angel's unique nature. It should be noted that unlike most other Codex chapters, the Blood Angel's sanguinary priesthood, the Blood Angels Apothecaries and Reclusium are also part of the chapter command, rather than subordinate organizations as would normally be the case. This structure means that the Sanguinary High Priest and High Chaplain take joint temporary rule in the event of the chapter master's death, rather than the rank automatically passing to the captain of the first company. This tradition arose during the 35th millennium, when Captain Kalael rose to the rank of chapter master and succumbed almost immediately to the Black Rage, throwing the Blood Angels into a spiritual and organizational crisis. By holding temporary command, the High Chaplain and Sanguinary High Priest can test the will and worthiness of the new candidate to ensure that such a rash and unfortunate appointment does not happen again. And that, I think, is where we're going to bring this video to a close. My voice is not quite used to whispering so much anymore. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.